Yeah, that's right. Especially with the little rain that we got, that helps, but they probably need a little bit more. So
Especially since it's been such a long dry spell, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you probably, when things get really dry for a long time, you probably need to be out there at least once a week to water them.
Okay. And then soil sampling too. Why we got to do that?
Well, it's. I think this is an important tool that farmers are going to find really helps them out. So we just wanted to remind them that it's getting to be that time. Of course, it's something they can use to monitor the changes in their soil quality based on how they're using it and how they're managing it. And they can also use it to monitor their problem areas. And basically, it's a way to help them make decisions on their future management that's going to work best. One thing that a lot of people use it for is fertilizer rates. This is getting to be that time of year. The recommendation is it's a time when the climate is fairly stable, no recent disturbances, so right after the harvest, before they start doing any fall work on it, is the perfect time to do this. And of course, as you say, some of the harvest is getting ready to start, so it's something to keep in mind to be ready to do afterwards. I wanted to just go over a little bit about where to do the sampling. If you're trying to get a general assessment of your field, you want to look at the soil quality. You're going to want to select sample sites that are representative. So you're probably going to look at soil maps to identify your largest areas of soil type. Now, some people already have those soil maps. If you don't have them, the district has the hard copies, the books. But the other thing we're recommending is go to the NRCS's web soil survey online. And if anybody needs information on that, there are brochures that tell you exactly where to find it and how to use it when you get on there. Just step down to the office. As far as the number of samples, that depends on how variable the field is. If you're looking at those large representative soil types, then you want to take at least 3 samples from each of those. And I think they recommend at least 20 samples per field. And then, of course, you just mix those up into a composite, and that gets you your field average. If you're trying to monitor changes over time, you need to take the samples from the same sites each time, but you also want to be looking at the moisture conditions. If it was really dry the last time you took it, you probably don't want to do it right after a rain this year. And of course, you're also probably going to want to monitor your trouble spots, but you want to keep those samples separate from the rest of the field samples. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing it. And as far as things to check, the obvious ones are your nutrient levels, NP and K. Nitrogen especially, you want to check each year so that you're doing the most cost-efficient application of fertilizer. And of course, we've mentioned this before as well. If you're applying manure, you also want to get that nutrient levels tested in the manure before you apply it so that you match those up. If you're trying to keep track of your soil health, the very important one to monitor is your soil organic matter, because this affects so many other things, your nutrient levels, aggregation, water infiltration, and so on. And another one that's important around here is salinity. A lot of people have salinity problems, and if you're monitoring that, you can start making some management decisions about it before you start getting that white crust out there. You can be aware of what's going on ahead of time. So it's an important tool, and like I said, we just wanted to remind people that the time is coming up and be ready to do that.
So that's you do that usually in the fall. Then is it when you start soil sampling?
I think they mostly recommend trying to do it soon after harvest, before you start doing anything else with it, or at the end of the growing season if you're doing it on pastures.
And then you just kind of do you go about 6 inches down or something like that to get it, or is it just like topsoil?
It depends on what samples you're taking. I think it's 0 to 6 and 6 to 24, and then for a couple of things it's deeper.
Okay.
But there is a form that they have for it, and that'll tell you which depths you need for which samples.
And then you should probably do that every year, or it depends on the field, like what you're planting and stuff like that too.
It depends on what you're doing. Like I said, for nitrogen, they recommend doing it every year. And if you're trying to monitor your soil health, your soil organic matter, depending on your management, if you're trying to make management decisions off it, you probably want to do it every year as well.
Okay. And then cover crops too. Did you want to tap on that too at all?
Yeah, we had something that came out recently that I thought people would find interesting. Last winter, the North Central Region Sustainable Agricultural Research and Education Program, they had a survey done of farmers who use cover crops. This was done both online and at some Midwestern farmer conferences, and the survey was answered by 759 farmers. And in the results, they found that in 2012, both corn and soybeans planted after cover crops had increased yields in the area of 10% compared to the fields without cover crops. And in the drought areas down in the Corn Belt, the increase was even greater. It was around 11% for corn and 14% for the soybeans. So the surveyed farmers, they said they all pretty much intend to increase their cover crop acreage from an average of 303 acres to 421 acres. And they asked what their key benefits were. The most common one was the improved soil health. But there are a number of benefits from cover crops. They figure the ones that helped out probably in the drought areas are that the cover crops decrease the soil moisture loss, and they increase the organic matter, which of course improves the rainfall infiltration and the soil's water holding capacity. But we've mentioned before there are a whole bunch of different benefits you can get from cover crops. They slow erosion, they smother weeds, help control pests, they improve the nutrient availability. We just think this is a really good tool that a lot of farmers are using and finding that it really helps them out.
All right, Dion, we got about a minute left. Can you tell us about the range tours scheduled for September real quick?
Okay, we don't actually have them scheduled yet. We're working on them, but we're working on a soil health tour and a range tour. Soil health, we're basically going to be looking at the basics, helping people understand maybe how they can look at their own soil health. And range tour is... It's a little up in the air, but we're talking about we're doing that one with extension, and we're talking about maybe doing something on fall grazing and management of fall grazing.
All right, sounds good. And then Brandon, real quick, you got 10 seconds.
Yeah, if anyone in the area needs anything from the NRCS office, don't be afraid to give us a call or stop in.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, you guys. We really appreciate you stopping in. That's Brandon Kotke from the NRCS, the District Conservation, and Dion Schaaf, District Manager for the Soil Conservation District.
Got a jolt yesterday when star defensive end Jared Allen limped off the practice field with an ankle injury. Allen will undergo further exams to determine the severity of the injury.